Go.
We are at Kearney House Museum.
No, mansion. Ready, set, go.
We are at the Kearney House Mansion.
Kearney Mansion Museum. Go.
We are at Kearney Mansion Museum.
Go.
Take care of Kearney Mansion here. And Kearney Mansion this year, we just turned 113 years old. And so this home was finished back in 1903. And it's all named after the man who used to live here. Because I'm sure you drove out on Kearney Boulevard today. I'm sure, of course, we're in Kearney Park. And so the house Kearney Mansion is named after Martin Theodore Kearney. And Mr. Kearney, when he used to live out here in Fresno, his nickname, they called him the Raisin King of California. And so he built this lovely home here. And this home that we're touring today from 1903, we still have about 70% of the original furniture still here. So it's just like stepping back into time, and I love that part. Back in that time period, so you can see the same hallway right here, but this is in 1903. So if you look close, you'll see the grandfather clock is still over there. We go through all the rooms today to take a look at these original photographs, and you can compare 1903 Superintendent's Lodge. And so the superintendent would live here with his family, but of course at 1903 this was the best house on Mr. Kearney's property, so he lived here too. So go on right down the hallway this way. But since this was going to be just a temporary home for Mr. Kearney, he actually wanted to build himself a lovely castle right here in Kearney Park. And so he never got to build that, unfortunately, because he passed. But you can see some of his inspiration. Look at this photo here on the wall. Castle in Germany. And so he visited that on vacation. And if you look close, you'll even see the date. 1902 is when that picture was taken. And so it's just a beautiful photograph. So you can see where he got some of his inspiration to build a castle here in Fresno, California. So his office was right in here. And we can see a lot of the original office equipment still here to this day. You'll see, of course, an old typewriter, a stamp, a lot of accounting equipment from the turn of the century still here. Pretty cool. But there's a back house from the office door, and they would walk up to the original countertops, as you see right there, and they'd be able to do business right here in Mr. Kearney's office. So very cool, very cool.
And he grew raisins?
Yeah, he grew raisins primarily. He also sold land as well. But you can take a look at this photo here on the table. Can you guys spot which house is Kearney Mansion? Can you see us in that picture? Which house is Kearney Mansion? You see us? I can give you a hint if you need a hint. But we're right in the center of the picture. So take a look. I'll point to it right here. We're here in Kearney Mansion. And there used to be back then a whole town just right out the back door. And so unfortunately, when you look out there today, most of those original buildings are gone now, but we used to have a grocery store right behind us right here. We used to have a blacksmith shop here in the center. So it was a very busy town back then, and Mr. Kearney called this little town his Fruitvale, and he was showing off in this advertisement. He was going to build a castle because he wanted you to farm. And so about that time, if you came out to Fresno to buy yourself a put us on the map. But if you come look in the corner, see this big steel door? So you can see right there, that big steel door was a walk-in safe, and they keep all their cash, all their valuables secure in there. It was very nice. And so they so very cool. It's very flush with the wall, so it almost looks like it's painted on, and people always ask if it's, they would keep records for all the different crops. So you can see cotton and figs and raisins and prunes, all the different crops and all the livestock and all the buildings. They just kept record of it here in the office, because this was a busy one of those doors and sing every hour. Doesn't work currently though, but beautiful German. He was just a very smart businessman, so he worked very hard for everything he earned. And we can see a picture of Mr. Kearney right up in the corner. That's what he looked like. And so that was him just a few years before he passed away at the age of 64. But right above his lovely desk right here, this was his private office. You can see a picture of his castle right up there, and that was his Chateau Fresno. So unfortunately did not get built because this home was 1903 and he passed in 06. So a very short timeline there. Oh, be careful. But of course, all those lovely trees out in Kearney Park out there today, he planted every here. So you can see these coins if you look close. And so back then when it was payday for the employees, they would be paid in his own company currency. Very cool. So you can see the coins, different shapes. Very neat. Scene right here. So which man do you think is Kearney? Which man is Kearney? That one, you got it. So he was, of course, the passenger. And so his chauffeur would drive him around. And this is in Paris. And this is a Mercedes-Benz Limousine. Very expensive car. It cost a lot of money for that time. You know, close to $20,000. Here that are still functional. As well as these buttons here. They don't work anymore. But back then, you would press it and it rang a buzzer in your maid's quarters. And she would hit it. But yeah, we do love giving tours to young people. Third grade is kind of like our age, so we do a lot of field trips here. But as we come upstairs, just for safety, we're going to hold on to the handrail right here. So follow me on up to the second floor, right up this way.
Boo-boo, do you want to walk or do you want me to? Okay, you have to hold on to the rail.
We're going to hold on to the handrail there. There we go.
Got it?
So up here on the second floor, we're going to see a lot of color here in the house. And it's going to be a dark purple color. So the color has faded over time, but still very... Check out is right inside here. So feel free to walk inside and you're going to see some children's toys in here. So go ahead and step in. We'll just stay behind the rope.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And so in here, of course, we see toys because, of course, Kirby himself, unfortunately, had no children. But he built this home for his manager, and the manager's wife at one point did give birth in the house. So this was a child's room at one time. So same period to show that off. So a very beautiful little room here. And it's a little bit cloudy. Look at those closer. Imagine that. But they were really expensive dolls for that time. You know, all hand-painted porcelain dolls. So this was the kids' room right here. And in this big hallway, you guys can see the doors at either ends of the hall. And the doors go out to that nice wraparound porch. So nice long hallway. This is the entire length of the home. And of course, during the summertime, it would get hot up here, so they could open up the doors and windows and get some fresh air here in Kearney Mansion. Cool stuff. You come back when you're older too.
Yep.
But yeah, this room right here was Mr. Kearney's bedroom. So this is the most complete room in the house. Some beautiful furniture, like both of his beds are still here, as well as the beautiful maple furniture set. And so for only having lived here a short time, it's very complete. Very similar to how he left it. And so you'll notice he has two beds. The little bed in front is called the day bed. And that's where you could take a nap, or you could lay down or change your clothes, put your shoes on. Whereas the regular bed, it's all hand-stitched, so very delicate. So once your bed was made for the day, you left it made. So very cool. We don't use day beds too much anymore.
I never heard of a day bed today.
So check out the beautiful tub. And you'll notice even if you look up, look, he has a shower head. And remember, we're way out in the country out here. We're not in town. The wallpapers here in this room.
What's
Very
the
nice.
thing for?
That's just a beautiful vase. And you can see the colors on it are the pink and the green. And you'll notice everything in this room is pink and green in color.
Mm.
So it's very color coordinated because that was part of the fashion at the time. You made everything match. And even for a gentleman's bedroom, pink wasn't an uncommon color at the time. You know, it was just a very bright color they loved to decorate with. You'll see some photos of Mr. Kearney on his mantle above the fireplace, and those are his school yearbook. So very neat picture frame there. Mr. Kearney's. Because of course he is the gentleman's only. But if you come right through here, I apologize the lights don't work in the closet anymore, but I'll light it up for us. You can see here in his closet, see that big trunk with the letter K? That was where he kept his clothing when he went on vacation. And so this one actually has a sticker next to it for the White Star Line, and that was the same cruise line the Titanic was.
Oh, wow.
So this was a little bit before that, but still really cool trunk. And the suit's hanging on the hooks, just like the clothing he would have worn in that period. You can see all the hooks where he'd hang his clothing. So I'm sorry the light doesn't work in the closets anymore. Nice little hallway here, and look at another door. So there are 3 of those doors to go out to that wraparound porch. So no matter which way the breeze was going, we could get a really nice fresh peek. That one we saw men's suits. Take a look at these clothes. These are ladies' dresses. And these are also from that same time period. So some really beautiful clothes in there. But these are big closets, and this is in a time period when walk-in closets were very uncommon.
Oh, watch out.
Careful. So this bedroom, we have 2 master bedrooms. We have Mr. Kearney's room, and this was his manager's bedroom. He treated his manager very well. So beautiful furniture, and if you come close, look at this chest right here. See all the flowers that are carved into it? This piece was made out of camphor wood on the interior, and camphor has a nice minty smell, so come close. You can get a whiff of this wood, very minty scent. I always love sharing this with you guys. Can you smell that?
Yeah.
Yeah, very strong.
Well, come smell it.
And
Smell?
that smell, it keeps out moths and bugs. So
Oh,
your
really?
fur coat, yeah, so your fur coat stays in really good condition. So it's really cool. Beautiful piece too. And
So it's
this
the
is-
wood that gives out the smell.
It's the wood itself, and that the smell doesn't go away. I open this for every tour,
Oh.
and the smell just comes right out, and it's very strong.
What kind of wood is it?
It's called camphor.
Camphor.
C-A-M-P-H-O-R. Camphor.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, so it's a very cool wood. But of course, our manager had another fireplace in here as well. You'll notice the 2 bedrooms are exact mirror opposites of each other. So Kearney and his manager's room, about the same. Although this one, we see the fireplace, there's a little coal box next to it, because all of our fireplaces here, they did burn coal. So that would be full of coal back in that time period. And they probably have a little shovel to shovel that into their fireplace to burn it. But it's really nice. But yeah, the heat during the summer was even worse for other buildings at the time. They weren't as well insulated as this one. So we're kind of making a big circle around the 2nd floor. Here in the hallway, you can see all the artwork with the... And Kearney loved horses, so we see a lot of equestrian scenes on the artwork here in the...
Oh, these are the same.
See, we just pull furniture in here, so check it out. Take a look at that chair by the window. You see that chair? Those are all real animal horns on that chair. And that was very common back then when big game, a lot of cool furniture like this came about. And so that one, I don't know the full story behind it, but it's a beautiful chair. Piano. So a beautiful small piano with the built-in candles, little clock right there. So really neat stuff. And if you look in the corner, you're going to see our record player. It's a Victor model. Has that wind-up crank on the side. And if you guys want to come close, do you want me to show you how it works?
Sure.
So come on over, guys. Come on right through here. So right here, you can see the record on top of it. And so this one here has a wind-up crank on the side. So you wind it up like this. I'm only going to wind it up a little bit because it's already wound up. See that? You can hear it click. And there's an on switch right here on the side. So we're going to play some music today. It looks like we have some foxtrot on this record. So take a listen. So this was thing built into the hall. Have you ever seen one of those before? You sure? No? That is one of Fresno County's very first telephones. So Mr. Kearney paid for a phone line to be brought all. So it's built into the wall, and they even had a stool that folds down so you could sit down and have a conversation. So really cool. The stairwell that goes up to the 3rd floor. And so we don't go up there for tours because the Fresno Historical Society, we still keep our archives stored up there. And our archives are some of our very delicate items. Extra sunlight here in the hallway. So without having that window there, it might be a little dark in the Yeah, as we come downstairs, I always mention to everybody that here in Kearney Mansion, we don't have a kitchen. So they did not cook indoors because, of course, the kitchen was a heat source. So that would always, you can imagine that effect in the summertime. But we have 2 more rooms right here. The first room is called the reception room, and then we're going to see the dining room. So come on inside and check out this beautiful furniture in here. So this is where you would entertain your guests and have your parties in the home. So look how colorful everything is, of course. And we even have lamps on display and sculptures. So this is where Kearney would show off some of his beautiful furniture for his guests to enjoy. So if you look up on the mantle, you'll see these two lamps up here. Those are original from 1903. So Mr. Kearney brought those home with him, and they've been here ever since. And that fireplace, if you look at how big it is, it's very impressive. You know, this is much better than the one we saw upstairs even. So I do know the sculpture in the opposite corner, that one with the lady and all the vines surrounding her, that one is from here. The artist is Auguste Moreau. And so he purchased that and brought it to a very well-renowned piano company. And so whenever we can have a Steinway on display, that's always a nice thing to have. So still very functional Steinway piano. Cigars.
Oh.
So like a cigar humidor or box right there. So that one was a donation given to us. So it wasn't Kearney's, but similar time period. So a really neat piece of furniture. But right here, you'll notice there are pocket doors in the wall. So these solid doors would slide out shut, and that would separate the reception room from the dining room. But here in the dining room, you can see the dining room table, and check out the pottery on top. That's a beautiful Italian piece of majolica. Very shiny look on it, because of course Mr. Kearney was our raisin king. So we see grapes here on display. You tell me what these remind you of. Does that foot at the bottom remind you of like a certain type of animal paw? Because all these big claw-footed tables, they are original wallpapers in both these rooms. Very nice. I always mention this room's wallpaper because if you look at the color of this wallpaper, it used to be a very dark green back in 1903. So even in the original black and white photo, color of the wallpaper was. It was a very dark green wallpaper at one time, but being here for well over 100 years, the sunlight has slowly faded it out. I can show you a little bit of green if you look right up here. Take a peek where I'm pointing at. A little bit of green color right there you can still see, right? So a little bit's still there. So I'm sure if I move some of this heavy furniture and picture frames, we might still see some. So it's hard to tell, but I'm going to ask you again. Let's look in the other corner where it's a little shadier. Come right over here and check it out. So yeah, now you can see that it's a bird, right? So it's just based on where the light sits. That one got more sunlight and more damage. So this one's very beautiful. And then they were just prepared in the butler's pantry. Last minute preparation before serving it.
What's this for?
There's a little privacy screen right there, because back then, you would set up your privacy screen right in front of this door, so that when you're in the dining room, you don't see your workers washing dishes or anything. So it was very private dining. But this little room right here, if you take a peek in there, and it's a very small little room, because we didn't have a need for a full kitchen. So they would just keep their extra china in there pretty much a little bit. And so we're very lucky here in Fresno that we don't have earthquakes like the rest of California does, because otherwise it'd be worse. But the cracks, so no major damage, but it does show some cracks in the plaster. But this is our dining room, that's our reception room. Do you have any other questions about the house before we move on? I want to make sure if you had questions that we get those answered, because I love answering questions about the place.
Any questions?
Yeah, so the most popular question is the house haunted, and I've been working here at Kearney Mansion for about 9 years or so, and I have never seen or heard anything that would make me think the house was haunted. So it's very quiet and very peaceful. Sometimes you'll hear, some elephants running around outside when kids are running on the porch, but that's about it. So the house itself is very, very peaceful, very quiet place to work. So it's a very nice place to give tours. So we're a museum for now, and that's one of the best things about Kearney Mansion is that we're so complete as a home. As we walk into the house, it's just like stepping back into time. So that's why I love sharing the story of the place hall again. Instead of going out the front door, we're going to go out the back. So come on right through this way when you're ready. And so Mr. Kearney passed away in 1906, and he was a bachelor. So without a wife or children to carry on his legacy for him, he left his entire property to the University of California. So the University of California ran his ranch for him after his death. So we'll come on up and back. And so now we are on the back porch. I can point out some of the surviving buildings. So you can see right there, this was called the servants' quarters. And so it's a pretty big house itself. So currently it's our office building, but the maids for the cooks. And we also had a downstairs basement. And that is where the dining room was. The design of the house.
Two houses connect.
Just like you see, this is as much as they connect. So they're different houses for sure, but they are just right next door neighbors to each other. So very nice house. And of course, this house is our offices now, so we don't really type. But that was Mr. Kearney's carriage house. So he kept his horse-drawn carriage in there, and that would keep it out of the weather. But I love the roof line of that building because it has that little spire on the side up there. That is where Mr. Kearney's castle was going to be built. And so unfortunately that never happened, but if you walk over there today, it's now, so we think it was a heart attack, maybe a stroke. We're not entirely sure. Has that big white door? That little building right there was called the Ice House because, of course, remember there were no refrigerators back then, so they had fresh ice delivered to the estate. So they would hear the dinner bell, and that's loud. It's, even to this day, when we ring it, you can hear. You know, during the harvest time, there could be anywhere from 200 to 300. You know, but year round, because every tour has to end in a gift shop. So we have that planned out. So this whole room used to be kitchen space. So if you look over here, you can see the stove. You can imagine them cooking on that, right? And you see the big hood right above it. So they would prepare a lot of food right here in this room. And so nowadays, of course, it's become our museum store because as a museum, we have a machine room. And this whole house was a working house, so we know this was a kitchen, but we don't know exactly where everything was, of course. Smaller, so. But I wanted to get the name of your channel too. So.
Yeah, sure. Let me write down.
You're going to cost more dandelions to grow. You want that?
You want to do it?
Actually, I want it.
No, he said it first. Okay.
But there's more.
Here. Here. Hey, ready? Turn around this way. Yeah, like that. Go.